Hi, I'm Elaine Shuttle from the Milton Public Library, and I'm back again with another story from the Story Hat. Got my hat with me. I've got feathers on my hat. Feathers always make me think of birds. And there's a bird, an ostrich, in fact, in the story that I'm going to share today. Ostriches have fantastic feathers, big, plumy, curly feathers. And ladies used to love to get them to put on hats, and they would stick up and bob around and be very impressive looking. But this story isn't really so much about the ostrich as it is about another creature from Africa, an elephant. It's the story of the elephant's child. In the high and far off time, O best beloved, the elephant had no trunk. He had just a mere smear of a nose, a blackish, bulbish thing that couldn't do much except wiggle back and forth a little. Now, among these elephants, there was a small elephant. In fact, a young elephant, an elephant's child. And this elephant's child was filled with satiable curiosity. That meant he asked a lot of questions. He went around everywhere asking questions of everyone. He asked his tall aunt, the ostrich, why her tail feathers grew so funny. And she spanked him with her hard claw. He asked his tall uncle, the giraffe, why his skin was so spotty. And his uncle, the giraffe, spanked him soundly with his hard hoof. Another time, he asked his broad aunt, the hippopotamus, why her eyes were tiny and red. And she snorted and spanked him with her broad foot. And finally, one day, he asked his hairy uncle, the baboon, why melons tasted just so. And his hairy uncle spanked him hardest of all with his hard paw. But still, despite all of that, the elephant's child still had a satiable curiosity. And one day, he thought of a question that he had never asked before. And he asked, what does the crocodile eat for dinner? Well, immediately, his mother, his father, his aunt, the ostrich, his uncle, the giraffe, his aunt, the hippopotamus, and his uncle, the hairy baboon, all spanked him soundly and for quite a while, even though he very politely asked them to please stop. None of them seemed to want to answer his question. But later, he found, sitting in the middle of a thorn bush, a colo bird. And he asked his question of the colo bird. And the colo bird said, why are you asking me? You should go to the banks of the great, gray, green, greasy Limpopo River, set all about with fever trees, and ask there what the crocodile has for dinner. The littlest elephant thanked him very politely, and gathering up a large pile of melons to carry on his back with him to eat, he set off across the plains of Africa, heading for the Limpopo River. He started at Grahamtown and then went through Stanleyville and on to Kamba, and there he turned north and east until at long, long last in the distance he could see the river. As he traveled on, he ate the melons that he had brought with him and tossed the rinds aside as he finished, for he had nothing with which to really pick them up. And eventually he got close to the river, the great, gray-green, greasy Limpopo River, set all about with fever trees. And there, on a rock, all curled up in the sun, he saw the great bicolored python rock snake. And he went up to him very politely and asked, "Kind sir, please, can you tell me where I may find a crocodile?" "What?" said the bicolored python rock snake, and he uncurled his flailsome, scalesome tail and spanked the elephant's child soundly. "Oh, please, sir," said the elephant. "My mother, my father, my aunt the ostrich, my uncle the giraffe, my aunt the hippopotamus, and my uncle the baboon have all spanked me already, but still I want to know, where may I find a crocodile?" "That's all you have to ask me?" said the snake. "Well, perhaps you could tell me what he eats for dinner?" "Ah," said the bicolored python rock snake, "you must go to the river itself and ask there." So the elephant's child set off slowly down the bank of the river, and he hadn't gone far before he came close to something that looked a bit like a large log lying in the water. He paused and looked at it, and suddenly he saw one eye open, and then the other eye opened, and then both eyes opened. "Oh, please, sir," said the elephant's child, "can you tell me where a crocodile is?" The crocodile's tail came up out of the water and swished about. The elephant's child stepped back because he thought for a moment he was going to get spanked again. But then the creature spoke. "Why do you want to know?" he said. "Now, best beloved, you must realize that until that very week, day, hour, and minute, the elephant's child had never seen a crocodile before. So he really didn't know what he had in front of him." But the creature spoke and said, "I am the crocodile. What is it you wish to know again?" "I want to know, sir, what you eat for dinner." "Oh," said the crocodile, shedding a few crocodile tears. "Oh, little elephant's child, come closer, and I will whisper to you what I eat for dinner." The elephant's child carefully crept close to the crocodile and lowered his head, and the crocodile opened its great musky, tusky jaws and grabbed his nose, and through gritted teeth said, "Tonight, I think I will start dinner with elephant's child." And he started to drag the elephant's child into the water. The elephant's child squealed in pain and planted his 4 feet firmly on the banks of the river and pulled back and pulled back and pulled back but he couldn't get loose, and the crocodile's tail was churning in the water, and he pulled and pulled, and the elephant's child pulled and pulled, and his nose began to stretch. And just then, the bicolored python rock snake uncoiled himself from his rock and came down and spoke to the elephant's child. "Oh, little one of satiable curiosity, I am thinking that if you do not apply some serious tension at this point, you will become dinner for that crocodile." The little elephant pulled and pulled, but he wasn't making any progress, and he felt his feet begin to slip on the bank. At that point, the bicolored python rock snake coiled himself around the elephant's child's hind legs with a clove hitch. And he began to pull, and he pulled on the elephant's child's legs from the back, while the crocodile pulled on his nose from the front, and his nose stretched and stretched and stretched. But finally, the crocodile gave up and let go. "Oh, goodness," said the elephant's child. "Oh, my poor nose, it hurts." The bicolored python rock snake helped him back from the water's edge, and the elephant's child, oh, his nose hurt so bad, and it was so long, didn't know what to do. The bicolored python rock snake brought him some wet banana leaves and wrapped them around his trunk. "What will you do now?" he asked the elephant's child. "Oh," said the elephant's child, "oh, I think I will just sit here and rest until my nose shrinks back." But it did not shrink, best beloved. It stayed long. And eventually, the banana leaves dried and fell off. "Oh dear," said the elephant's child, "whatever shall I do? What can I do? My nose, it looks so awful." "Oh, some people don't know when they're well off," said the bicolored python rock snake. And at just that moment, a nasty old fly buzzed round the elephant's child's head and bit him on the shoulder, and without even thinking, the elephant's child slapped the fly with his trunk and knocked it off. "Vantage number one," said the bicolored python rock snake. "You couldn't have done that with your old mere smear of a nose." "Oh," said the elephant's child, "that's true. But I am so hungry right now." "Well, eat something," said the snake. And without stopping to think, the elephant's child stretched out his trunk, pulled up a clod of grass, dusted the dirt off the roots against his knee, and with his new trunk, popped the grass into his mouth. "Vantage number two," said the bicolored python rock snake. "You couldn't have done that with your old mere smear of a nose." "Ah," said the elephant's child, "you're right. Oh, but it's so dreadfully hot here." "Yes, it is," said the bicolored python rock snake. "Why don't you do something to cool off?" And again, without thinking, the elephant's child stretched out his trunk and slopped up a slop of cool mud from the bank of the river and plopped it on his head The water trickled down behind his ears, and oh, that mud cap felt so cool on his head. "Vantage number 3, said the bicolored python rock snake. "Couldn't have done that with your old mere smear of a nose." "Oh," said the elephant's child, "I guess it's not so bad after all." And saying that, he started off back the way he had come to take himself home to his family. As he walked along, he carefully picked up the old rinds of the melons that he had eaten on the way out, because he was a tidy pachyderm, and piled them off to the side so they wouldn't be in the way. And when the flies buzzed around him, he broke off a branch from an acacia tree and used it as a fly whisk to whisk the flies away from him. And then, as he got hungry, he would stop and pull up bunches of grass or short branches from the trees and strip off the leaves and eat them. He found his new trunk most wonderfully useful. Soon he came back in sight of all of his family and relations, and they all looked at him and said, "Where have you been? And what have you done to your nose? It looks terrible." "Oh," said the elephant's child, "I went to the banks of the great gray-green greasy Limpopo River, set all about with fever trees, and I asked the crocodile what he ate for dinner, and he gave me this nose. And it's very useful too," he said, and slapped at a fly. Well, his friends and family and relations all said, "Oh, such a naughty elephant's child," and they came as though to spank him. But the elephant's child said, "Do you want spanking? I'll show you spanking." And with his new trunk, he spanked all of them, good and long. After that, there was just no living with the elephant's child. He ran about doing whatever he felt like, spanking whomever he felt like, using his long, long trunk to blow bubbles in his aunt the hippopotamus's ear when she was trying to sleep, and generally being very disruptive. In fact, things got so crazy that one by one, all of the other elephants snuck off themselves to go down to the great gray-green greasy Limpopo River, set all about with fever trees, to get trunks from the crocodile. And when they all came back with their magnificent new long noses, no one spanked anyone anymore. And from that day to this, best beloved, every elephant that you will see, and every elephant that you will not see, has a trunk just like that of the elephant's child, all because of his satiable courteosity. And that is the story of the elephant's child, taken from Rudyard Kipling's book, Just So Stories. Thank you.